Serafina Monroe stood at the threshold of the Galactic Academy's grand entrance, her chest tight with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. The towering spires of the Academy loomed above her, their silvery surfaces gleaming under the distant stars. This was no ordinary institution. It was a place where the most advanced alien species in the galaxy came to learn and refine their skills in diplomacy, warfare, and intergalactic governance. Humans, however, were not considered an advanced species by galactic standards. They were barely above the level of primitive societies, their technology limited, and their space exploration relatively young. Yet here she was, a single human cadet among hundreds of beings far older, stronger, and more sophisticated than her. The air inside the academy buzzed with the sound of alien chatter. Some species towered over her, others were barely a foot tall, their forms shimmering with translucent bioluminescent skins. There were insectoid creatures with multiple limbs, humanoids with jagged crystalline features, and beings made entirely of gas who floated effortlessly above the ground. Their eyes, if they had them, seemed to ignore her. Not a single glance cast her way. No surprise. Why should they notice the solitary human among their ranks? Her uniform felt uncomfortable, stiff and alien to her, but it was the same as every other cadet's, a simple blue jumpsuit, sleek and form-fitting, adorned with a silver emblem representing the Federation. Serafina had read all the Academy's rules. She knew how to behave, how to present herself. But she could never have prepared for this. The quiet judgment from the other students, the subtle sneers, the occasional chuckles when they thought she wasn't looking. It was palpable. "Why is she here?" whispered one cadet, a tall, lizard-like alien whose name she hadn't yet learned. "Humans shouldn't be allowed in an institution like this. We could barely trust them in the war." The whispers didn't stop. Some cadets simply ignored her, as though she were invisible. Others made no attempt to hide their amusement, their laughter echoing softly in the halls. Serafina had heard all the rumors, how humans were considered beneath the other races, how their species was only recently granted entry into the Galactic Federation, and how many felt humanity was unworthy of their place among the stars. She'd read the history of her people's struggle, how Earth had been nearly destroyed in the last Great War, and how humanity was just beginning to rebuild itself in the aftermath. But all she had to hold on to was one simple truth. She was here now. A tall, blue-skinned cadet with antennae curled over her head walked by, glancing at Serafina with disdain. "She's not even fit to be a messenger. Why bother?" She muttered just loud enough for Serafina to hear, her tone dripping with superiority. Serafina clenched her fists, feeling the sting of their words, but she swallowed her anger. She wouldn't let them break her. Not now. As the cadets gathered into formation for the first briefing, she took a deep breath, squarely facing the front. "You can laugh all you want," she thought, "but I'll prove you wrong." And with that resolve burning in her chest, Serafina stepped forward, ready to begin her journey. The next day, Serafina found herself seated in a massive auditorium, surrounded by hundreds of cadets from species she'd only read about in textbooks. She could feel their gazes, some curious, others indifferent, but the sense of superiority was thick in the air. The Academy's instructor, an elder being with 3 sets of eyes and a voice that resonated with authority, began outlining the first major simulation, a test of survival on a hostile alien world. Today, the instructor's voice echoed, "You will face the harshest environments and creatures your species could never imagine. Adaptability is key. Survive, learn, and succeed. If you fail, the results are irreversible." The words sent a chill down Serafina's spine, but she steeled herself. Her mind raced with thoughts of the harsh conditions Earth's explorers had faced. Extreme weather, dangerous wildlife, unknown territories. She had grown up on Earth's rugged landscapes, accustomed to its challenges. But how would the galaxy's elite treat the survival simulation? Would they even see her as capable? The other cadets were already chattering excitedly, each boasting about their species' natural resilience. The amphibious Zolrex, towering over most of the cadets, bragged that he could survive underwater for days without oxygen. Calera, a humanoid with wing-like extensions on her back, was claiming she could fly over the entire planet without breaking a sweat. Serafina stood silent, a sense of isolation creeping over her. The simulation commenced. The cadets were beamed to an alien planet's surface, an unforgiving world teeming with violent storms and carnivorous plants. For the first hour, the cadets split into teams, gathering supplies and establishing basic shelters. Serafina's team was composed of 3 other cadets, Zalrex, Calera, and a small but sharp-eyed alien named Vin, whose species was known for their intellect rather than strength. Despite their superiority, the team quickly descended into chaos. Zalrex was eager to prove his might, charging ahead to face the largest storm front head-on. Calera, trying to avoid getting her wings damaged, panicked when they got caught in a gust of wind, her flight skills ineffective against the heavy winds. Vin, while smart, had no physical strength and was easily overwhelmed by the environment's dangers. Serafina, however, remained calm. She knew that a headstrong approach wasn't the answer. While Zalrex fought a massive windstorm, Serafina led the group into a thick forest of strange, carnivorous plants. She had learned about Earth's own dangerous flora, from poison ivy to aggressive carnivorous species. She knew how to move stealthily, using what she had on hand, a simple knife, and her wits. Serafina quickly spotted the pattern of the plant's movements, understanding that they responded to sound and vibration. She instructed the team to move carefully, timing their steps. After hours of survival tactics, when the storm passed and the team was safely huddled beneath their makeshift shelter, Serafina glanced at the others. Zalrex was scowling, drenched and covered in cuts. Calera's wings were battered, and Vin was clearly exhausted. Yet they were alive, thanks to her quick thinking. Impressive, Vin whispered, clearly impressed by her skills. Zalrex grumbled, but he didn't challenge her. For the first time, Serafina felt something shift in the atmosphere. Maybe, just maybe, she wasn't the only one who had underestimated herself. By the time the simulation ended and the cadets were beamed back to the academy, a new realization spread through the group. Serafina Monroe hadn't just survived. She had led her team, earning a modicum of respect, even if they weren't willing to admit it yet. As they stood in the debriefing room, the instructor's voice rang out again. "Cadet Monroe," the instructor said, pausing. "You've exceeded expectations. I suggest you pay attention to the ones who would ignore your potential." The words hung in the air. Serafina straightened her back. The academy might have been built on alien superiority, but she had just shown them something they didn't expect: human ingenuity. The next day, the whispers began again. Only this time, there was a new energy in them. Serafina had gained some respect from her peers, but that only made the ones who resented her even more vocal. As she walked through the crowded hallways of the academy, she overheard snatches of conversation. "She's dangerous. It's one thing to survive, but can she fight? She doesn't even belong here. Let's see if she can stand up when it counts." Serafina kept her eyes forward, ignoring the glares from the more established cadets. But she could feel the weight of their judgment, like a constant pressure on her shoulders. Later that week, the challenge came. It was a standard combat training exercise, a tradition at the academy, where the cadets were put through a series of simulated one-on-one duels. The goal wasn't just physical strength, but the ability to outsmart your opponent, to use the environment, and to anticipate every move. Serafina had no illusions about her own skill in combat. She wasn't a warrior, not in the way these aliens were. Zalrex, Calera, and others like them were born to fight, trained from birth in their respective species' deadly arts. She was human. She wasn't supposed to be good at this, but she had learned something in the survival simulation. Never underestimate her ability to think on her feet. As the instructor announced the pairings for the day's exercise, Serafina's heart sank. There, towering over the rest of the students, stood Zalrex, The same arrogant alien who had led the mockery of her the first day. The massive reptilian warrior sneered as his name was called, locking eyes with Serafina, his lips curling into a smug grin. Ready to be crushed, human, he taunted, his voice like gravel grinding underfoot. The others around them snickered, their eyes shifting between Serafina and Zalrex, as though the outcome was already certain. Serafina stepped forward, trying to steady her racing heart. She wasn't afraid of Zalrex, but she knew she couldn't just charge in like he expected. He was far stronger, faster, and more durable than she could ever be. If she made the first move, she'd be finished. As the signal sounded, Zalrex wasted no time. He lunged at her with a speed that took even the seasoned cadets by surprise. His clawed fists swung with terrifying force, aiming to knock her unconscious in one blow. Serafina barely managed to sidestep, the rush of air from his attack sending a chill through her skin. She moved quickly, but the brute force of his assault was like nothing she had ever seen. But Serafina wasn't playing by the same rules. She didn't need to match him strength for strength. Instead, she danced around him, using her agility to keep just out of reach. Zalrex's heavy frame was no match for her speed. Every time his claws missed, she struck. Quick jabs to the joints, the pressure points, areas that would cause pain without risking injury. She wasn't trying to defeat him outright. She was wearing him down. Zalrex roared in frustration as he swung again, but Serafina had already anticipated the move. She ducked low and grabbed his leg, using his momentum against him. With a sharp twist, she sent him sprawling, his massive body crashing into the dirt. For a moment, the academy went silent. Zalrex scrambled to his feet, but he was visibly winded. Serafina, still standing, breathed heavily, but her mind was sharp, calculating her next move. Zalrex's pride wouldn't let him admit defeat. "You think you can win," he hissed, a glimmer of genuine anger in his eyes. "You're nothing." But Serafina knew that the battle wasn't just about victory. It was about showing them that she was not a joke. She stood tall, meeting his gaze with unwavering resolve. "No, Zalrex, I'm not nothing. I'm just getting started." The crowd's murmur grew louder, their skepticism slowly turning to disbelief. Serafina could feel their eyes on her, no longer with ridicule but with uncertainty. This human, this seemingly fragile cadet, had just proven she could not only survive but stand her ground against a champion fighter. The academy had underestimated her, and now they had no choice but to start paying attention. That evening, after her duel with Zalrex, Serafina couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in the academy. Her heart still pounded with adrenaline from the fight, but there was an unsettling weight pressing on her chest. She had made her mark, yes, but the more she thought about it, the more the doubt crept in. Why had she been placed here, of all places? She wasn't the strongest, nor the most skilled, and humanity's presence at the academy was still seen as little more than an afterthought. But something about her had sparked interest, even fear. Zalrex's scorn had changed, morphing into something else, an unwilling respect, perhaps even an unspoken acknowledgement that she wasn't the easy target they all fought. That night, unable to sleep, Serafina wandered the empty hallways of the academy. The silence felt oppressive. It was late, the last of the cadets long retired to their rooms, but she couldn't bring herself to go back to her dorm. Her thoughts swirled around the mysterious nature of the academy, the strange feeling that there was more to her presence here than she had been told. In the depths of the academy's archives, far beneath the grand spires, she had heard whispers about forgotten files, ancient documents sealed off from the public. As a cadet, she didn't have clearance to access them, but the academy was filled with secrets. What if those files held the truth about why humanity was allowed entry into this prestigious institution? And what if she, Serafina, was more than just another human? Her curiosity led her to the academy's central archives, a labyrinth of metallic walls and digital vaults. She passed through several security doors, all of which required her cadet ID, and after a few false starts, found herself in front of an old terminal, one that seemed untouched by time. It was located in a dusty corner of the archive, almost hidden away, as if forgotten. A strange, unsettling feeling washed over her as she approached. With a deep breath, Serafina accessed the terminal, using the passcode she had quietly borrowed from a fellow cadet, one she had befriended. Her fingers danced over the holographic interface, bypassing firewalls and encrypted codes with surprising ease. Her Earth-born intelligence, paired with an unexpected knack for problem-solving, made her a formidable hacker, a talent she had kept hidden from most of her peers. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the terminal hummed to life. A file labeled Project Gaia, Humanity's True Legacy, flashed on the screen. She hesitated, a sense of foreboding gnawing at her, but her fingers moved instinctively, opening the file. The first lines of the document were chilling. The Earth Alliance has been the most powerful force in the galaxy. Their reach was far, their technology unmatched. Their disappearance from the galactic map was no accident. The Federation erased them, fearing what they could become. Serafina's breath hitched. Her heart raced as the file revealed that humanity had once been one of the most influential and advanced species in the galaxy. Earth had held knowledge and technology far beyond what any of the current species could comprehend. But then, without warning, Earth had vanished from the galactic stage. Her ancestors had been silenced by the Federation, who had deemed them too dangerous. The truth was buried, hidden, but now it was in her hands. The final line of the file was a chilling revelation. You, Serafina Monroe, are the direct descendant of the lost legacy. You are the key to humanity's return. Serafina's mind reeled. She had always known humanity was capable of more, but this was something else entirely. The entire galaxy had been kept in the dark. And now, it seemed the Federation had more to fear from her than they had ever realized. The Academy's halls, once filled with judgment and ridicule, suddenly felt more like a cage. Her past was more than a mystery. It was a weapon, one she would need to learn how to wield if she was to survive what was coming. Serafina stared at the screen, her hands trembling as she processed the revelation. The weight of the truth was overwhelming. For as long as she could remember, humanity had been portrayed as weak, naive, and unworthy of the galaxy's respect. But this document told a different story. Earth wasn't just another species in the galaxy. It was the missing link, the once powerful civilization whose sudden disappearance had been swept under the rug by the Federation. She closed the file, her mind racing, but the words still echoed in her head. You are the key to humanity's return. What did that mean? Was she supposed to bring Earth back to prominence? Did she have the power to restore humanity's forgotten legacy? If so, she was certain that the Federation wouldn't let her do it without a fight. As she processed the weight of the information, the soft hum of the archive systems jolted her back to reality. She couldn't stay here forever. Someone might notice she was accessing restricted files. With a final glance at the terminal, she quickly logged out and erased all traces of her intrusion. She needed to get out, and fast. But as she turned to leave, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Going somewhere, Cadet Monroe. Serafina froze, her heart leaping into her throat. Standing in front of her was Vin, the small but sharp-eyed alien who had been in her survival team. His slender frame was silhouetted by the soft glow of the archive's lights, his eyes glinting with a knowing look. I could ask you the same thing, Serafina replied, trying to keep her voice steady, though her heart was racing. Vin's lips curled into a slight smile, but it wasn't the friendly kind she had come to expect from him. There was something calculating behind his gaze now. I see you found something interesting. Serafina didn't say anything, her mind racing. Vin wasn't just another cadet. He was different. He was intelligent, too intelligent, and his curiosity about her had always seemed more than casual. Had he known all along? Had he been following her? Don't worry, Vin said, stepping closer, his voice quiet but firm. I'm not here to expose you. In fact, I think I might be able to help. She frowned, taking a cautious step back. Help with what? Vin glanced around, ensuring no one was watching, before lowering his voice even further. You're not the only one who's been looking into Earth's past. I've been doing some digging too. There are things the Federation doesn't want us to know. Things that could change everything. Serafina's pulse quickened. You've seen the files. He nodded. I have my ways. It's not just about Earth's past, though. It's about the power that lies within humanity. Something far beyond what you've been told. Serafina felt a chill run down her spine. What do you mean? Vin's gaze turned serious. The Federation didn't just erase humanity from the galaxy's history because you were dangerous. They erased you because they knew what you could become. They know that Earth's true potential is something none of them can match. And you. His eyes locked onto hers, piercing and intense. You are the catalyst for humanity's resurgence. The gravity of his words hit Serafina like a punch to the gut. She wasn't just a cadet. She wasn't just a human trying to prove her worth. She was part of something much bigger, something that could alter the balance of power across the galaxy. Vin's voice softened. But you need to be careful. There are others who want to keep this secret buried. And if they realize you know the truth, they will stop at nothing to silence you. Serafina swallowed, the weight of her discovery settling deeper into her bones. She wasn't alone in this fight, but the path ahead was fraught with danger. The Federation was watching, and if they had truly erased humanity's past, they would stop at nothing to prevent her from uncovering what they had hidden. Her resolve hardened. She would not be silenced. Humanity had been lost for too long, but now it was time to reclaim its place among the stars. Then let them come, Serafina said, her voice steady. Because I won't back down. The next morning, Serafina couldn't shake the weight of Vin's words. The knowledge she had uncovered wasn't just a relic of the past, it was a threat to the present. She had known that her place at the academy was precarious, but now it felt as if she was walking a razor's edge. The Federation didn't just want to keep Earth's history buried. They feared it, and if they realized she knew the truth, they'd do everything in their power to stop her. Her thoughts were interrupted as the daily assembly began. Cadets gathered in the vast hall, and for the first time since her arrival, Serafina felt the weight of every eye in the room. She stood tall, but her heart raced. She could sense the change in the atmosphere. The cadets' casual glares had transformed into something more deliberate, more knowing. Vin wasn't the only one who had been paying attention. Serafina had suspected that some of the faculty had seen something in her, something more than just the human cadet who had managed to survive the simulations. As the instructor called the room to attention, Serafina's instincts flared. Something was wrong. The head instructor, Professor Kale, an intimidating figure of a species Serafina had learned was both immensely powerful and highly secretive, stepped onto the raised platform. His multiple eyes scanned the room, and his voice echoed through the chamber like thunder. "We have a new development," Professor Kale announced, his tone gravely serious. "A special training exercise will be held in 24 hours. This will be unlike anything you have faced before. The Federation has decided to test your ability to confront real threats, both internal and external." Serafina's stomach twisted. This wasn't just another exercise. She could feel it, the weight of his words carrying far more meaning than he was letting on. The cadets shifted in their seats, murmuring among themselves. It was clear that something major was unfolding, but no one knew exactly what. "Everyone will participate," Professor Kale continued. "You will be tested in a live combat scenario, but you must be prepared for deception. Not everything is as it seems." As he spoke, Serafina's mind raced. Could the Federation already know what she had uncovered? Was this exercise a trap, a way to test her, to see if she had stumbled onto something they wanted to keep hidden? Professor Kale's gaze lingered on Serafina for a moment, and she felt a chill run down her spine. The subtle weight of his attention told her everything he knew. He had to know. Perhaps Vin's warnings hadn't been enough. She wasn't just a target in this exercise. She might be the very reason it was happening. The assembly ended, and the cadets began to file out, a strange, tense silence hanging in the air. Serafina walked swiftly to her dormitory, her mind racing. She needed to talk to Vin, but she also knew she couldn't trust anyone completely. The walls of the academy felt more suffocating than ever before. She was no longer just a cadet trying to prove herself. She had become a pawn in a much larger game. In her room, Serafina tried to focus, sorting through the files in her mind, piecing together everything she had learned. The Federation's fear of humanity's power wasn't just based on old history, it was about control. The galaxy wasn't just their domain. Earth had once ruled a significant part of it. And now, Serafina was a living reminder of what they had tried to erase. A soft chime interrupted her thoughts. A message appeared on her personal terminal. It was from Vin. "Meet me at the outer barracks. Midnight. Alone." Serafina's heart skipped a beat. She had no choice but to go. There was something he wasn't telling her, something important. The academy was closing in on her, and soon the entire Federation would know what she had uncovered. But for now, she had one chance to figure out her next move. She couldn't afford to wait any longer. Serafina's heart hammered in her chest as she made her way toward the outer barracks under the cover of night. The academy's vast grounds were eerily quiet, and the distant hum of machinery only added to the tension building inside her. Vin's message had been short and cryptic, but she knew better than to question it. The stakes were too high, and if he had asked her to meet him alone, it meant something had shifted, something big. She moved quickly, avoiding the main patrol paths. The outer barracks were located on the farthest edge of the academy, beyond the training fields where cadets usually honed their combat skills. It was a place few ever visited. The area was isolated and known for its strict security. No cadet was ever supposed to be there after hours, which made Serafina's gut twist with unease. Was this a trap? When she arrived, the cold wind swept across the barren fields, the darkness enveloping her like a cloak. The only light came from a flickering overhead panel that cast long shadows across the metal barracks. She hesitated at the entrance, peering into the gloom. Vin's figure was barely visible in the shadows, his eyes gleaming with an intensity she hadn't seen before. "You came," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "I came," Serafina replied, taking a cautious step closer. "Now tell me what this is all about. Why the secrecy?" Vin motioned for her to follow him into the barracks. Inside, the air smelled faintly of oil and dust, a forgotten place where training equipment and old tech were stored. He led her to a small, hidden compartment at the back of the building, where a holographic projector flickered to life. "I've been digging into the Federation's plans," Vin began, his voice steady, yet laced with urgency. "The recent exercise. It's not just a test, it's a purge." Serafina's eyes widened. "A purge?" "Yes. The Federation suspects that someone at the Academy has discovered the truth about humanity's past, and they believe you're the one responsible for it." The words hit her like a physical blow. She had hoped, foolishly, that the Federation wouldn't notice her so quickly, that they wouldn't connect her to the revelation about Earth's history. But it seemed she had underestimated their reach. They were already moving against her. Vin's voice grew darker. "You're not just a cadet anymore, Serafina. You're a liability. They'll stop at nothing to silence you before the truth spreads." Serafina felt her stomach drop. "You knew this would happen, didn't you?" Vin nodded, his expression grim. "I wasn't sure at first, but now I know. I've been monitoring the Federation's movements. The exercise tomorrow is a cover. They'll use it to identify you, to eliminate you before you can act on what you know." Serafina's mind raced. Eliminate her. The Federation wasn't just going to punish her, they were going to erase her, make sure humanity's past stayed buried forever. She couldn't allow that to happen. "What do I do now?" she asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Vin looked around cautiously, ensuring no one was nearby. "You need to expose them before they can expose you. There are files in the deepest archives, records about the Federation's true intentions. I've been trying to get access to them, but I can't do it alone. You need to go to the highest level security area tonight, before the exercise begins. It's your only chance to stop them." Serafina's heart raced. This was it. She had to act now, or everything she had learned would be for nothing. "I'll do it," she said without hesitation. "But I'll need your help. We'll go together." Vin hesitated, his face flickering with doubt. "It's too risky. If they catch us, we're both finished." "I'm already finished if I don't do something," she replied, her voice unwavering. "I'm going to stop them, Vin. I have to." For a moment, there was a heavy silence between them, the weight of the decision settling over them like a storm cloud. Then Vin nodded, a look of reluctant determination in his eyes. "All right, let's do it. But we need to move quickly. The Federation won't give us another chance." Serafina knew there was no turning back. Whatever happened, she couldn't let the truth die. It was time to expose the Federation's hidden agenda, no matter the cost. The clock was ticking. The Federation's purge was already in motion, and Serafina felt the weight of her decision pressing down on her shoulders with every step. She and Vin moved through the Academy's winding corridors, careful to avoid the security checkpoints and monitoring systems that were likely already on high alert. Every shadow felt like a threat now, every corner hiding a Federation agent ready to strike. The deepest archives were located beneath the Academy, a place so secure that only the highest-ranking officials ever ventured there. Serafina had never been this far. The walls felt thick, oppressive, and the air seemed heavier with every floor they descended. It was a place that had been purposefully forgotten, its secrets buried in a vault of cold metal and digital encryption. Vin led the way, his movements precise, almost mechanical. He had been planning this for some time, but Serafina could feel his anxiety growing with each step. He was just as aware as she was that time was running out. "We're almost there," Vin whispered as they reached the final security door. It was larger than any they'd encountered before, equipped with multiple layers of biometric sensors and encrypted locks. Serafina's fingers twitched with anticipation. This was the heart of the Federation's lies. The files they needed to expose the truth about Earth's past and her future were just beyond that door. Vin placed his hand on the biometric scanner, and after a tense moment, the door slid open with a soft hiss. They stepped inside. The room was vast, filled with rows of ancient consoles and flickering holographic screens. It felt like stepping into a forgotten tomb, a place so isolated that it seemed even time had abandoned it. But Serafina knew that the answers she sought were here, answers that would change everything. Vin immediately set to work on a nearby terminal, his fingers flying over the interface as he bypassed layers of security. Serafina kept watch, her heart pounding as she scanned the room for any signs of movement. They didn't have much time. After what felt like an eternity, Vin's face lit up. "I've got it. The file is here." Serafina rushed to his side, her breath shallow. The holographic screen displayed a series of classified documents, each one more damning than the last. It detailed the Federation's plans to erase humanity's influence from the galaxy, their systematic destruction of Earth's records, and their covert operation to ensure that humanity never regained its true power. And then there it was, the final document, the one they had both been searching for. It was a list of names, coordinates, and secret operations designed to suppress humanity's resurgence. At the top of the list was Serafina's name. "We need to upload this to the central network," Serafina said, her voice a mixture of urgency and resolve. "Once the entire Academy sees this, once the galaxy sees this, the Federation won't be able to cover it up." But as she spoke, the room's lights flickered, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoed down the hall. Vin froze, his eyes wide with panic. "They'd found us," he whispered. Before Serafina could respond, the door slammed shut, and a voice boomed over the intercom. "Cadets Serafina Monroe and Vin, You are under arrest for treason against the Federation. Surrender immediately." Serafina's pulse quickened. There was no way out now. The Federation had been waiting for this moment, knowing she would uncover the truth. But they had underestimated one thing: humanity's resilience. With a swift motion, Serafina tapped a series of commands into the terminal, triggering the upload of the files to the galaxy's public network. Within seconds, the damning evidence was broadcasted across every corner of the galaxy, revealing the Federation's dark secrets for all to see. "We've done it," Vin breathed, a note of awe in his voice. But their victory was short-lived. The door burst open, and armed Federation guards poured into the room, weapons aimed at them. "You're too late," Serafina said, her voice steady despite the danger. "The truth is out now. There's no going back." The guards hesitated, looking around at the now visible holographic files, but the moment passed quickly. They raised their weapons, prepared to take Serafina and Vin into custody. But before they could act, a new voice rang out, louder, more commanding than the Federation's. "Stand down." The guards froze. Serafina turned to see Professor Kale stepping into the room, his cold, calculating gaze locking onto hers. His alien form towered over them, but there was something different in his eyes now, something like respect. "You've made your move, Serafina Monroe," Kale said, his voice low and dangerous. "But you've miscalculated." Serafina stood tall, refusing to back down. "No, you've underestimated humanity. And this time, we won't be silenced." Professor Kale's lips twisted into a thin smile. "Perhaps, but the Federation's reach is long, and your victory will be fleeting." He raised his hand, signaling to the guards, but before they could act, a sharp noise filled the room, distant, but unmistakable. A series of explosions rang out from above. The Academy was under attack. Serafina's heart skipped a beat. The truth had unleashed more than just chaos. It had sparked the beginning of a war, one that would shake the very foundations of the galaxy, and she would be at the center of it, leading humanity's resurgence. It was just the beginning.